We're going to talk about issues that are commonly found in Metro Atlanta homes, especially those built from the late 80s all the way through the 90s and into the early 2000s. So when I bought my last home that I bought in Metro Atlanta, the one I live in, it was back in 1999. The house was built in 1991. And the home had a particular product on it that was the subject of a class action lawsuit. Now, that means, for those who don't know, that there was a bunch of people who purchased homes that had this type of siding on it. And my home has what's called LP siding, which stands for Louisiana Pacific siding. There was also Masonite siding. There was all kinds of brands that were subjects of class action lawsuits. It's not that the material is a bad material. This is just the normal siding that you would see, the lap siding that's on the side of a home or front of the home, back of the home, where the pieces are stair-stepped all the way up to the top. And the issue is that those boards were manufactured. They were basically extruded. They were run through a high pressure extrusion machine, and they basically take cardboard and little wood fiber chips and they press it together, and then they basically seal it in an outer coating, if you will. And so what happened was, as in many cases in Metro Atlanta, when those siding boards, when one laps over the other, they would actually put nails along the bottom of that edge. And when they did that, they would cause the bottom edge of the siding to swell, or they would cause it to start to open up. So it has this, let's just call it a plastic seal over it. It's not a plastic seal. I don't even know what it's called, but it starts to open up on the bottom, and then it starts to work like a wick. The rain runs down the front of the siding, and it's supposed to drip off of one piece and down to the next piece, but it will roll around the bottom edge. And when it rolls around the bottom edge of the siding, it actually sucks it up into the siding. So the first thing I think you need to be aware of is whether or not your home has any siding that was the subject of a class action lawsuit. The second item is synthetic stucco. And in our last segment, we talked about synthetic stucco. We had a listener question saying, do I need to be aware of synthetic stucco? And for a while, I know some of the big employers in Metro Atlanta would not even provide relocation benefits for someone who was buying a synthetic stucco home, meaning if you bought it, they were not going to give you relocation benefits to help you sell it. And as we mentioned in the prior segment, it was really more of an installation problem. It was not caulked correctly. And synthetic siding is sort of like having a cooler, a styrofoam cooler on the exterior of your home with a very thin, very light, concrete finish on it. And so it's an installation problem. You get moisture behind the stucco, and it rots a lot of the structural membranes, the sill plates, the things like that for the wall. So it can certainly be destructive if you have a home that has synthetic stucco, if you do not keep it caulked and sealed. If you're buying one of those homes, as we mentioned in the first segment, you need to make sure you have a company that is authorized to inspect synthetic stucco homes, come out and inspect it, and they need to test the moisture levels. They drill small holes through the stucco and they test the level of moisture, between the exterior cladding and the structural supports, the 2x4s or 2x6s. The next thing is polybutylene plumbing, and we have a listener question in the third segment about polybutylene plumbing, so I'm just going to hit on this real quickly. A lot of these products were used about the same time, so synthetic stucco was popular when the pressboard siding was popular, when the polybutylene plumbing, but they were trying to decrease the cost of putting in plumbing, and so they made this extruded plastic pipe. It's actually kind of a blue-gray color. And they would affix the pipe with these fittings. In the first place, they were plastic fittings. They'd push them together, and then they went to like aluminum fittings, and then they went to copper fittings in the end. And the problem with this piping is that it gets leaks. And so it's not a matter of whether or not you're going to have a leak. A lot of times with polybutylene plumbing, it's a matter of when. In many cases for the last couple of years, if a home had fogged windows, if you opened the curtains or pulled up the blinds and you have two different window panes and one of them almost looks like it has calcium on the inside of it, or fog or moisture on the inside of it, it's because in most cases, the seals in that window, those two panes in a double pane window are actually sealed together, and there is a gas that's in between those panes, and there's a leak in the seal, and moisture is getting up inside in between the glass panes. And there are many cases where the actual sash can be replaced. Sometimes they can take the glass out of the sash and replace it, but it's something you need to be aware of, because buyers in a balanced market, they don't like their windows to be fogged. The next one is Cinderblock foundation walls. You don't have a whole lot of Cinderblock foundation walls in Metro Atlanta, but in the 80s, there was a good number of homes that were built on Cinderblock foundations. And I'm not an expert in foundations, but I will tell you this. When a home has a Cinderblock wall and it has a home inspection, it is quite common to find horizontal cracks in that wall, and where the pressure of the dirt on the outside is basically pushing the wall in, and it's making it bend, it's making it bow in. And so I'm not telling you you should not buy, I'm not telling you you shouldn't buy a home that has a Cinderblock wall. What I'm telling you is that if you are looking to buy a home and it has a Cinderblock wall, foundation wall, then my suggestion is you have it thoroughly inspected. In many cases, the way they shore that up is they come in and they put a basically like an iron I-beam on the inside of the wall, and they basically bolt it to the floor and they bolt it to the house. And so it is the slab in the basement or whatever the lowest floor is, and the home itself that's actually holding the wall up.